Welcome to Inner Voice of Knowing podcast. I'm Kaye, a shamanic leadership coach and healer, guiding you through life with a foot in both worlds. When you understand the terrain of the inner landscapes, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic, you will become the leader within your physical life, both personally and professionally. After all, the power of change is in your hands. Let's get this journey started. Welcome back to Inner Voice of Knowing. It's so wonderful to have you here again. This subject is very close to my heart, and I'm seeing it a lot with my clients and people around me and closest to me. So I would really like to bring clarity to this part of the journey. So this week's topic is about initiations and rites of passage. Now, many people will talk about an initiation is a rite of passage. I'm going to give you my shamanic take on it from all my years of experience and the realizations that there are differences from just aspects and lessons that I'm being called to learn. For example, if I'm passing judgment on somebody else, if I'm jealous of somebody else, if I'm being critical of somebody else, and if I'm feeling triggered and reacting something old out in regards to what has been said or actioned. They are aspects laying dormant, unconscious within these shadow elements, calling to be remembered, reclaimed, and reintegrated. That's part of our journey back into wholeness. An initiation is something different. Have you ever been so bombarded by what feel like challenges that it just feels like it's never ending, 6 months, a year? Some initiations I've been in have been a 2-year process. Now, here's why. You have the aspiration to go deeper. We're living in a modern day world and we want everything fast and we want everything now. And everything feels like it's speeding up. But if you're on that inward journey, that spiritual initiate's journey, where you're not just talking about it or reading the books, you are doing the work. You are turning your vision inwards. You're ready to start peeling away the layers and remember the truth of who you really are and what you're really capable of. Source, soul, future successful self. And you want to fill those callings. Then you are going to be experiencing this. And I want to bring this conversation to the table in this episode because if you already know me, you know that what we're not aware of, we don't feel responsible for. Or it makes it more difficult for us because you're not understanding the landscape that you're traveling through. You're not understanding the language of what is taking place for you rather than against you. So we can make all these advancements in our outer world, but there's an inner world. Let's call it ancient, that there are laws and processes too that must be adhered to. Growth and initiation is exactly that. You are learning new skills to take you to a whole new level and expression of self. You are going through a massive up-leveling in who and how you have known yourself to be. You've done the groundwork. And now it's time to go next level. And in order to do that, you must be initiated. And we are initiated no longer through having those that have gone before us teaching us those initiation processes. And we're going to be initiated in all these different areas. like branches of a tree as we're traveling upwards, or if you would like inwards, We're going to branch off and be initiated at different mental planes, emotional, energetic, spiritual. And many people talk about initiation and rites of passage as if they're the same. That's not how I've experienced it personally, and also guiding others. There are differences. It is part of the same process, but not exactly the same. So let's clarify this. You will have certain challenges, like I said, that you're being asked to turn your vision inwards and go into the shadows, the unconscious, and bring into conscious awareness. Reclaim and remember and reintegrate aspects of self back into wholeness, restoring energy, because each of these aspects hold energy that's required for us to become more than we currently know ourselves to be or perceive ourselves to be right now. Have you ever gone through what feels like a never-ending bombardment of challenges, or that the challenges become so much deeper the further that you go? There is a myth that the further you spiritually develop yourself, everything becomes easy. No, you just face everything from a different perspective, understanding the landscape and the language of what you're going through. But because you may not have the adept guiding you and saying, right, you're entering initiation right now, it may take a lot longer for you to suddenly uncover. But here are some clues. You're in initiation. You're being called to learn at a whole new level. You're being called to apply at a whole new level. Just like when you're the apprentice and then you move from the apprenticeship into the trade, and then you move from the trade into the master of that trade, the adept. Well, so too are the true initiates going through this. So what I will call the true initiate, the true spiritual path, is when you're no longer dabbling. It's not just about the books that you're reading. It's not just about the podcasts that you're listening to. It's not simply about the words that you're speaking. It is about, are you applying? Are you applying it and integrating it and being courageous about it and reclaiming and re-owning when you're doing a projection and recognizing that it's guiding you back into reclaiming fractured aspects of self? When you're really doing that work, not just dabbling. So there's no judgment there, but you've moved past that curiosity phase and you're in the application. And the more determined you become, you will enter initiation. And when you go next level, you will enter another initiation and another initiation and another, if you're continuing to grow. But remember, you don't have the adept there saying, okay, it's time, and this is where you're at, and this is where you're going to go through, which is why I need to do a podcast on this from my shamanic perspective and years of experience working on myself and with others. And I've recently undergone a 2-year initiation, and I'm witnessing others around me in their initiation or merging into the rite of passage. So the initiation is the learning of those new skills. You're being called to confront something more challenging than you've ever done before, and to deepen your learning process. Universe is saying, now with this one, what are you going to do? With this one, are you still going to call on all of that which you have come to know? Or in this area, you have not yet addressed this. And the more adept you become at it, the bigger the challenge, because the more capability you've got, the more skill you have. But there's that question, what will you do with this? And when you're in initiation, when you feel like you've been addressing something and it comes back round and then something else comes and something else presents itself, or it continues to come around, or there's a couple of things coming at you from a few different directions, and you feel like you're getting it, but it calls you deeper. You've only scratched the surface. The situation continues to test you, and it continues to test you while your vision is still outward, while your ownership is projected outwardly, where you still haven't really settled fully into the absolute knowing, which is a whole body saturation of love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness to the situation, and then seeing what you were being called to learn, who you were being called to become. So if you feel like there is something that just keeps going on and on and on, or there's a few things and you feel like, what the? How much can I take? There is nothing happening that you are not capable of handling if you pick up the right tools. So you may have grown into a version of yourself and then you're initiated because you're crossing a bridge. You're testing. Bit like Source saying, are you going to continue coming? Are you going to continue moving towards me and becoming and remembering that you are an expression of my divinity, of my power, of my beauty, of my vastness? And I'm not talking about power over others. Power within yourself. Are you going to recognize the illusion that's become an intrusion in a whole new way? And there might be so many times where you're going, what the? But when it feels like that absolute pressure cooker and it's happening in a couple of different directions, or it's been a pattern that's just been going on and on and on relentlessly, chances are, my friend, you're in initiation. You're in a deeper calling. And my question to you is, what are you going to do about it? First thing is, when you receive the understanding that that's what you're in, settle into it. You cannot rush through this. The fastest way through this is the faster you learn, the application, the faster you uncover and discover. It's an alchemical moment of transmutation. You would have heard people say, I feel like I'm rising like the phoenix, which means the old you has been called to disintegrate and renew. Nothing dies off. It fertilizes the new. So if you feel in that pressure cooker, if you feel like you're in a holding pattern that hasn't yet shifted, do some self-reflection. Are you still projecting blame? Are you still wanting the circumstance or the other to change? Because let's face it, it's usually people coming in playing the part to initiate us, the challenge. Are you going to remember and draw upon and call upon the fact that these are the people that love you the most because you've made agreements with them, as you would have heard me say before, where you see the role of the divinity within them and that you may not understand it, but this is happening for you. They're offering you a gift of turning a lump of coal into a diamond, polished, sparkling, light reflective diamond. So are you still pointing blame, responsibility, or the finger upon another? Or are you digging deeper? Are you putting down the tools that keep you centered and expansive? Are you contracting? Or are you determined that you may not fully understand this, but you will lean in and you will tune in, that you will call upon source, you will call upon the elements, you will call upon love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. You will deepen your inner core, your inner spiritual core. You will hold firm to your soul awareness. You will ride what feels like the storm. You will surrender to it, not bring judgment or condemnation or fear. Because in initiation, you are called to face, embrace, and understand the purpose of that fear. A signpost telling you you're heading in the right direction. You're going to have to dismantle how you face and embrace certain relationships. The need for it to be different, or the other to be different, or the circumstance to be different. And that trusting, this is coming from love. You called upon it. You called this experience into being. You've required it. You've needed it. So surrender to it. Truly, deeply surrender. You're going to have to let go mentally, mental constructs. You're going to have to let go emotionally, emotional reactiveness. You're going to have to go deep within and go confront the dark mirror within in order to bring the light to it. You will find freedom. Seek the healing, seek the support from someone, the guide that understands. Reach out to me. But relax into it. Listen to it. Embrace it. Do ceremony. Ceremonies are important through rites of passage. When you start doing ceremony, you're calling upon spirit, source, the elements, your soul. You are symbolically acknowledging that you are in a deep process of initiation. Ceremony is important for acknowledging these powerful moments. When you graduate from high school, there's a ceremony. When you graduate from university, there's a ceremony. There's practice and preparation for those ceremonies, for your final ceremony. So whatever ceremony calls you, it will help you along the way. One of my ceremonies is to call upon all the elements. I do it down at the lake, thanking them for the support and the preparation that they're bringing to me in this situation. I have a moment of ceremony. Ceremony reminds you, ignites within you, that you are supported by the unseen world. Ceremony will bring more meaning to your initiation process. It will give you a sense of purpose along the way. And there are times when we need to walk through the darkness, which to me represents the lack of understanding, the lack of knowing in that moment, carrying the light with us. Carrying the light within you, deepening your relationship and your connection to source, soul, and self. And then you start to feel the change. You recognize the change. The change is reflecting back to you. The other party or the other experience or situation changes in how you are responding to it, what you recognize about your part in it, what you are being called to step up and step into. You feel that change taking place within you. And then when that learning ground, the deepening and the learning and the application of more of what you've known plus new, when you're out the other side, there's your exam, your rite of passage. You have learnt over the months, perhaps a couple of years, depending on how far along you are as the initiate. Then there's the exam at the end of that teaching, learning, integrating process. And the rite of passage will be an experience that will test you. The rite of passage doesn't then go on for years. That's the initiation process. It could be months, it could be a year. Some people, like myself, have had a 2-year initiation. Right at the beginning of that, I didn't understand until I started to see the pattern and the threads going, okay, this is initiation. That's what my knowing told me in meditation. Then I would receive a card that would talk about initiation. And it's like, aha, this is not just a learning moment. This is a period of deepened learning. Now, here's the thing. That will come also from your calling and your aspiration to grow into a bigger sense of self and a bigger sense of your life. As long as it's coming from that soulful intention and how that can serve humanity and the mass consciousness, you will end up in initiation. And then that test, the rite of passage, you will feel under so much pressure. It's a little bit like the universe self, soulful self saying, now, what are you bringing to this? For me, it was doing the pilgrimage on the Camino with a moment of some ill health and then a lot of physical pain. But I walked with it, not in it. I applied absolutely everything that I know. I also stayed present in the moment. And as much as I stayed with that, I still kept my expansiveness. And my prayers in that time were going, I'm not sure what this is, God. But I saw how fully integrated I was in the most extreme experience, completely outside of my comfort zone, determined to finish the path and to experience it with joy and gratitude, while addressing whatever I could do physically for the pain. That was my rite of passage. There are many rites of passage. And it is the exam field, if you like. Are you fully integrated after this arduous testing? Is it so integrated that it has become so much a part of you that during your rite of passage, you are just in acceptance? You are in this world, but not of this world. And you are thinking, feeling, breathing, acting, responding from soul energy first and foremost. You're not in the past. You're not in the future. You are so in the present. And in the present, there is joy. You are still expanded. And then it's like birthing after the rite of passage. There's that I'm feeling like I'm rising like the phoenix. The disintegration and the reforming and reapplication of self is rising. And you can feel it. You know it. You sense it. Please trust it. Just remember, when we're creating new life, let's use the example of pregnancy. Sometimes it happens fast. Sometimes it takes a long time to even fall pregnant. And then there's that arduous waiting and growing and discomfort and joy and sleepless nights and anticipation. And then you could say the rite of passage is for when the woman gives birth. And let's say, for example, the masculine there at your side. Could be the feminine there at your side. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying the man has the role in that rite of passage as well, in being of support and encouragement and a point of focus for the woman going through that rite of passage of the birth of the child. And then there's that moment where that new life is there. You are a parent, mother or a father, and that life is there. And then growing begins. And then an initiation will happen and then a rite of passage if you continue to deepen and grow. So initiation is when you're doing a major learning, releasing. Can have karmic, deep karmic stuff. If you're shamanic like myself, it could also be a deep releasing of mass consciousness also that you're participating in. Rite of passage is the test. And then there's the pressure is released. You are changed and transformed from the deepest level. Layers of illusion have been peeled away. A deep inner journey has taken place. And you start the next level, next version, next experience of you. And the understanding of this and the recognition of this has disappeared. When girls start to bleed and become women, these days it's thought of as basically it's just going to happen. But all the hormonal changes and everything that takes place for boys into young men and girls into young women. No ceremony, no teaching that you're in an initiation process, that all this change is happening and for a reason why it's happening. And the skills to bring to it from this deep spiritual understanding, and the ceremony to take place to honour it. And the moment of the rite of passage. This is why we have so much that's fractured within people's psyches as well. When a woman becomes pregnant, or we're getting ready to marry, everybody's so busy celebrating what's about to come, they're not acknowledging and releasing and integrating what has been. It's important we remember what an initiation is, the fact that we need to bring ceremony and meaning and integration to the process, and then the rite of passage, then the celebration. I hope this makes sense for you. I hope this answers something for you of where you may be. You may be moving into it. You may be in it and transitioning across that bridge. You may be in your rite of passage. You may have just come through it. Acknowledge, embrace, release, do ceremony for meaning and calling upon the unseen so that you can see and bring that light into perceived darkness. And when that birth of self comes and you feel that you are completely and utterly changed, in a new skin, if you will. Interesting, we're in the year of the snake, coming into the year of the snake as well. Then have a moment to celebrate and acknowledge that journey. Acknowledge it. And then you enter the next landscape where you get to live in that integrated way before a few challenges and experiences and callings require you to grow in that new playing field. And then you will reach the cycle again and again and again. Let's bring meaning and purpose and understanding and clarity to it. Thanks for being here. You're appreciated. Join me on my next episode. And if you love this podcast, please subscribe by clicking on the plus button if you're on Apple, or like and follow on Spotify, rate and review, and please share Inner Voice of Knowing with your friends.